for Monday, May 6, 2019. Our invocation this evening will be offered by Michelle Dunlap, HART Ministry. If you would please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Michelle? Okay, Shirley, would you mind? Thank you. Shirley Murdoch is here, and she's our stand-in invoker. Right.
Our dear Father in heaven, we come here in the attitude of a city council meeting, and it's a wondrous thing to see the citizenry that is interested in the goings-on of the city, and that we have that freedom here in America. And it was bought with a price that we can participate in the machinations of city government. And we appreciate our city council, each member and our mayor, who spend much time searching out the issues and the problems and the needs of our great city. We love independence and want the very best for it. We ask guidance and direction to be with our city council and with our citizens, that as we discuss the needs and the things that are of concern, that we might do it with care and dignity, and would have done our homework to know of which we speak. We love thee. We also ask thee to bless each citizen of Independence, especially the homeless and those that do not have enough to live comfortably. And we ask a special prayer upon our military and our emergency services that risk their lives to protect us. We ask these blessings and give thee our love and devotion in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmembers Huff.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Doherty.
Here.
DeLucy. Robertson.
Here.
Van Camp.
Here.
Mayor Ware.
Here. We have a number of citizens' requests, which we'll start with this evening, but before we get into that, I was just glancing through this, and I just want to clarify one thing, and then I'm going to ask the city clerk to share some information before we get started. We do have a full public hearing tonight on the Blue Valley plant, so I saw maybe some people were signing up to speak on that. If you are here to speak about Blue Valley and our capacity discussion, you can do that at the public hearing without signing up to speak in advance. And the others who are here to talk on others, so I will call your name, but if that's what you're here to speak on, I would ask you to wait until the full public hearing for that. The city clerk did receive signatures on both petitions today, so I am going to ask her to report on the results of those petitions that were submitted to the clerk's office, and then talk about the next steps. It does appear that there are sufficient signatures to put AMI on the ballot, so she will explain. So she will explain the next steps in regards to that. And there were also signatures submitted on the recall petition, and she can give an update on that as well. Madam City Clerk.
Right, correct. The city clerk's office received 2 petitions today. One was for the AMI initiative petition, and one was for the recall for the mayor. The initiative petition was submitted this morning. That has been submitted with the Jackson County Election Board. I'm awaiting to get the verification of those signatures. I'm hoping by the end of the week. City charter says they have 30 days. They've never taken that long. Once we get those signatures back on what's been verified, I will bring that forward to the full council for their review and how they want to proceed, whether that's put on the election possibly for August, maybe November, or passing an ordinance adopting that initiative petition. That is also an option. On the recall, that came in late after 4 o'clock today, that has not been submitted to the county or the election board for verification. I will get that as soon as I can, which will be tomorrow morning. And so that one follows the same process. The signatures have to be verified. If there's not enough, it will go back to the person who filed the petition to give them 10 extra days to collect those signatures, and then it will follow the same process of getting the election board to certify them, and then if there are enough, to put that on an election ballot. So that's where we're at as of today.
Thank you. Okay, we will begin with our citizens' requests. We did have one citizen sign up in advance. That was Jane Gawron, is that correct? Who requests to speak to the council regarding citizen accountability. You've all been provided with the council rules regarding citizens' requests to speak. The city clerk will keep the time up here at the dais. Go ahead.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. This was written by Ken Conan in 2017. Excuse me, that's right in my face. 2017. I've altered it for time's sake. He was a baseball coach that went to an annual ABCA's convention. Coach John Scalinos was scheduled to speak. In 1996, Coach Scalinos was 78 years old and 5 years retired from college coaching career. He shuffled to the stage to an impressive standing ovation. A string hung around his neck from which hung home plate, a full-size, stark white home plate. After speaking for 25 minutes, he finally said, "You're probably all wondering why I'm wearing home plate around my neck. I may be old, but I'm not crazy. The reason I stand before you today is to share with you baseball people what I've learned in my life and about home plate in my 78 years. Scalinos asked how many Little League coaches were in the room. He asked, "Do you know how wide home plate is in Little League?" After a pause, a man said, 17 inches. "That's right," said Scalinos. "How wide is home plate in high school baseball?" 17 inches, they said. "You're right," Scalinos barked. "And you college coaches, how wide is home plate?" 17 inches, we all said in unison. "Right." "And in Major League, how wide is home plate in Major Leagues?" 17 inches. 17 inches, he confirmed. "And what do you do with a big league pitcher who can't throw the ball over 17 inches? What they don't do is they don't say, it's okay, Jimmy. If you can't hit a 17-inch target, we'll make 18 inches or 19 inches. We'll make it 20 inches so you have a better chance. If you can't hit that, we'll make it 25. Coaches, what do we do when our best player shows up late to practice? Or when our team rules forbid facial hair and a guy shows up unshaven? What if he gets caught drinking? Do we hold him accountable? Or do we change the rules to fit him? Do we widen the home plate? This is the problem in our homes today. With our marriages, with the way we parent our children, with our discipline. We don't teach accountability to our kids, and there is no consequence for failing to meet standards. We just widen the plate. And this is the problem in the church, where powerful people in positions of authority have taken advantage of young children only to have such atrocities swept under the rug for years. Our church leaders are widening home plate themselves, and we allow it. And the same is true in our government. Our so-called representatives make rules for us that don't apply to themselves. They take bribes from lobbyists. They no longer serve us, and we allow them to widen home plate. From an old man with home plate strung around his neck, I had learned something about my responsibilities. I had to hold myself and others accountable to that which I knew to be right, lest our families, our faith, our city continue down an undesirable path. If we fail to hold ourselves to a higher standard, a standard of what we know to be right, if we fail to hold our family to the same standards, if our churches and our government fail to hold themselves accountable for those they serve, there is but one thing to look forward to. We have dark days ahead. This message was clear. Keep your players, your own family, your churches, your government, and most of all, keep yourselves at 17 inches. Mayor and council members, we the citizens of Independence are here to let you know that we are going to hold you at 17 inches. You always have a choice. Make that the choices that are right for serving Independence. You always have a chance or an opportunity to make a change.
Thank you. Okay. Our next speaker is Nathan Gordon, who wishes to speak on AMI. Mr. Gordon.
First of all, I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen. For those of you that were at the 5K run, it was great to see that you guys were actually there. I know the mayor ran, and it was nice for you guys to be there.
Let's be honest.
So did my oldest daughter that's 17 that went with my youngest that was 11.
Because I like to talk, so I walk and talk. Thank you.
I really, it was nice to see you guys out there, those that you were out there. One of the things, last time I was here, I brought my aunt up here, and one of the things we were talking about over the last couple of weeks is that in Harrisonville, there's 3 hotels that they had, all caught on fire and burned down, and all of them had AMI. And I want you guys to think about that. That's a big issue. There's the health issue side of this. Then also, with her bleeding out, I've also had someone at church in the last 2 weeks who is actually under KCP&L, who has a smart meter. She has been in the hospital and then had to go to rehabilitation, and she's been gone from home for 2 weeks. Bleeding out, same thing. Mysterious. These issues are popping up all across our country, and nobody seems to be listening about them. You know, in the Examiner, they had the opt-out program. If you rent, if you have a commercial business, you're a business owner, you don't get the choice to opt out. You know, if you live in an apartment complex, if you pay for the electric, you should have the option to opt out, period. It's just that simple. Nobody seems to be listening to any of this stuff or even have some common sense. My aunt went all the way to D.C. and still got turned down when it came to the AMI meters. They sent a letter to the electric company, or actually the gas company, and they still refused to take it out with the smart meter. Our government is not allowed to do that to us, and yet you guys are like trying to force us down this city's throat, and that's what it feels like, and that's why everybody's so angry. And I want to read a poem real quick. When I was 11 years old and I went to Scouts, my dad, and hopefully I don't cry, read this poem to me, and it stuck with me for my entire life, and I want each and every one of you to think about this. It's called Your Family Name. You got it from your father. It was all he had to give. So it's yours to use and cherish for as long as you may live. If you lost the watch he gave you, it can always be replaced, but a black mark on your name can never be erased. It was clean the day he took it, you took it, and a worthy name to bear, but he got it from his father. There was no dishonor there. So make sure you guard it wisely, and after all is said and done, you'll be glad the name is spotless when you give it to your son. Each and every one of you has children and grandchildren. Think about what you're doing and the future and your name that you're passing on down to them. I'm here today because of my father and what he taught me and his father taught him. And all these people, literally, those signatures, almost 6,000 signatures, okay? Just shy. And there's actually another 400 sitting out there that we didn't get turned in today. That's way too many, guys. Way too many. This city knows what's going on, and they're not as dumb and stupid as you're making us feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kenneth Love, who wishes to speak about petitions.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you for taking time for me to step up here tonight. Thank you all for showing up. Looks like the number of signatures turned in today to stop AMI or the recall petition looked like a lot of people signed them. We don't have exact numbers yet. But here tonight, just look in this audience, what's here. It's the citizens, the taxpayers of this community are upset about all the backdoor dealing. They're upset that it's y'all's job to show up and represent us professionally and do the right thing. Not look away and scratch my shoulder to scratch his shoulder. Or when every city councilman is not around, make phone calls after hours to get something done. That's just not right to the citizens of this city. Most important, though, for everyone that's here, this is most important. We had so many people come up to us wanting to sign a petition. And when they asked the reason of the recall, what did he do wrong? What do you mean, what did he do wrong? Well, tell us what he did wrong. I'm sorry, our mayor's not a man. It's a female. It's a lady. Oh, we never knew that. What this tells me, Miss Mayor, City Councilman, y'all are not out in the public enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Aaron Talcott, who wishes to speak on AMI opt-out.
Good evening.
Hello.
The AMI opt-out policy needs clarification. It says we can keep our current mechanical meter, but Core and Main stated they only offer a disabled smart meter opt-out, posing the same issues as a smart meter. If you are truly being honest, the policy would read, we can keep our current analog meter. So which is it really? We do know the difference. Secondly, we should know what future fees or monthly charges, as well as the terms and conditions we will face up front. A resolution is on the agenda tonight to reduce our rates over the next 3 years. We contributed to that $47 million IPL nest egg just like everyone else, so why would we be exempt from that? What about households with solar panels that still have to supplement with IPL power? They're not contributing to IPL proceeds like the average household. Will they be exempt from future rate reductions or face monthly fees? Why would I be exempt because I have an animal? Would a cat disqualify me? Define physical obstruction. What about an appeal process? The opt-out needs clarification, as we have seen the council cannot be trusted on AMI. Thank you.
Thank you. We did have a request from Rob Jansen. Mr. Jansen, were you here? Are you here?
It's not on AMI, it's on the RP.
Are you wanting to speak as a citizen, or are you wanting to speak at the public hearing?
I am not a citizen. I'm making myself available to answer questions regarding the amendment contract and
Okay.
power supply.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark MacDonald, who wishes to speak on Prop P.
Mayor and City Council members. My name is Mark McDonald. I live at 420 West Farmer, Independence, Missouri. I'm here and trying to solicit your support for an initiative that I've been working on with another group of folks for Proposition P. We support pets and police. It's something that will eventually bring to the voters the opportunity to vote on a local online sales tax to be able to provide funding. To be clear, I'm a strong advocate of the Independence Police Department, and I'm also a volunteer with the police department. I'm very proud to be a volunteer for the police department and to support the great task that they have in protecting us. I have witnessed firsthand with our police department their ability to fight crime, to be able to apprehend folks, and it really is an interesting process, and they have a great reputation of being able to bring people to justice. And for the most part, it's all reactive. Not negative, just reactive. What I'm here for tonight is to see if we can work on a proactive approach to crime. One of the things that you folks decided earlier during the budget year with the city manager was to establish the street crime unit. It's been a huge success. I've been able to sit through 3 presentations that they've provided us. One of the things that struck me as being not only a volunteer, but also being a numbers guy, that's my background, how impressed I was the fact that they were able to work off matrix that are measurable and that achievable, that they put goals out there and they've not only achieved those goals, but have exceeded those goals. What I'm asking for is for us to expand on that. I think they deserve the opportunity to move on with additional police officers, and that's what I'm here for tonight. None of this would be possible without your support, and I think we're headed in the right direction. It took courage on your part to take a risk with the street crime unit, and I think they've come through. It's my hope that you will also look to it to be able to add more police officers to the street to make us the safest town in America. I would encourage the leadership group to endorse this, and like most things, it doesn't come without cost. The cost for this would come from reestablishing the online use tax that, and quite frankly, did not pass last time. This time, I think it's going to be different in that it's for 2 groups, and it's going to be designated for 2 groups. One is for Great Plains is leaving our animal shelter, and there's a potential for a crisis in the very near future being able to support that effort. But also, with the police department, there's going to be a designated amount of money that would come from this fund that would be transparent, and there'd be an oversight committee to ensure that the funds that were collected from the online sales tax went to those designated areas. As part of this organizing group, I truly believe this is the right direction for us to be able to provide the funding and also to be able to help some serious issues that we need to deal with. The police department is doing their part. I think they are headed in the right direction. We need to do our part in providing them resources to continue forward. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next speaker is Ed Paterno. Is that right? Did I do it? Okay. Who wishes to speak on AMI?
Good evening. When DHS revealed that our electric grid was hacked by the Russians in 2014, they have privately have told the utility companies that this was happening. But yet they got in so far as to they could have shut off switches that would have interrupted our flow of electricity. Now this they did with analog meters. Imagine what any hacker can do with a smart meter. And I don't care what anyone says, smart meters are a violation of the Fourth Amendment. Just because I buy a product from somebody, you don't mean that they get to come into my house and see how I use it. That's just like saying a furniture store can come in and see how I'm using my couch. They'll wonder if it's going to be under their warranty or not. So now I looked at after the wake of Newtown, Connecticut school shooting in 2012, Congress defined 3 or more killings in a single incident as a mass killing. PG&E in 2000 was a $9 billion company who was sued the second time for 4 deaths, mass killing, that settled for $333 million. I can't find anything on the first death, the one that Eric Brockovich investigated. It's crap like this that deter other companies from doing the same thing. Where were the company heads that knew about this and hid it? Why weren't they prosecuted for murder, and why are they still walking around? What did this lead to? Johnson & Johnson, $360 billion company, lost a lawsuit of $4 billion to women for ovarian cancer, which 6 of them had died, mass killing. Monsanto Roundup, a $66 billion company in 2016, was ordered to pay $289 million to cancer victims. It's linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which in 2015 in the U.S., 4.3 million people were diagnosed and 231,400 people had died from it. Now, out of those numbers, you can bet that at least 3 or more of them are going to be from Roundup, mass killing again. Now, the utility companies, including our own, are all wanting to join people like these, according to Congress, mass murders, with these smart meters. You've heard this in this very courtroom, the effect it had on one woman. You just Google or YouTube search and you will find many, many more with the same type of symptoms. Doctors are even getting in on this now, and they're wanting the recall of these meters. And as time goes on, I'm sure more and more doctors are going to be following suit. If these meters are improved, down the road, 20 years from now, you guys aren't going to be here. You're going to move on. You're going to be a new council, it's going to be a new mayor, and if we're having these many problems now with these things, what are we going to get 20 years from now? I mean, and then the new council then will say, well, it wasn't us, we didn't do it, that was them, they're the ones that passed it. Well, by then, everything is all done and said and done, and the people are still around dying with health diseases. I mean, to me, you know, the minute fines for these companies is okay for government, but not for us. There's 327.2 million people who live in the United States. If only 10% of that population was affected by these smart meters, that's 32.72 million people. Out of them, if 10% died of cancer caused by these meters, that's 3.27 million. That's not governing, that's genocide. This is a government we don't need and we don't want. From what I see, the only mass murder is done with a gun. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Lowell Croft, who wishes to speak on utility matters. Mr. Croft.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Lowell Croft, and I live at 4319 South Brentwood Street, and I have been a resident of Independence for over 45 years. Over the years that I've lived here in Independence, I have been proud of the fact that we have owned and operated our electric, water, and sewer utilities. I also remember a time not that long ago that we had the least expensive rates in not only the metro area, but also most of the Midwest. The times have certainly changed, and our rates have been allowed to increase to a point that we now pay among the highest rates in the area. In particular, our electric rates are definitely higher than the comparable municipally owned utilities in Springfield and Columbia, Missouri. And those are the ones that we should be comparing to, not the higher rates of KCP&L and BPU-KC. I've had discussions with my neighbors and many other citizens in the city, and everyone that I talk with complains about their utility bills being too high. And what has been done about it to this day? Only a feeble attempt at doing something by granting a simple 2% rate reduction. While I applaud that effort, it's a long way from getting our rates down to where they should be. It's really been discouraging to witness the council's inability to form a consensus on how to move forward on matters concerning rate reductions. You were very good at spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to hire engineers and consultants to perform studies like the Master Energy Plan and implementing AMI, but you seem bent on ignoring their recommendations. You also tend to ignore the recommendations of IPL staff and the Public Utility Advisory Board. It's one thing to want to question what is recommended, but I think it is totally unprofessional to have the confrontational discussions and dirty politics played out at the council meetings. We citizens deserve better from the mayor and our city council. Furthermore, the city charter clearly states in section 3.18, the council shall not pass any ordinance, resolution, motion, or other proposition which relates to any matter of policy or planning of a public utility operated within the city without first giving the Public Utility Advisory Board the opportunity to submit to the council within a reasonable time the board's findings and recommendations relating to such matters. On tonight's council agenda, there are 3 resolutions that have not been presented to the PUAB for review and comment. Usurping the city charter and the authority of the PUAB needs to be stopped. One of those resolutions is to purchase additional power capacity from Dogwood, which goes against the recommendations of the PUAB, which reviewed offers from both Dogwood and Onetta and voted to support the Onetta proposal. The Onetta proposal was also about half of the cost of the Dogwood proposal. The Dogwood purchase would also incur liabilities for increased debt and operation and maintenance expenses that the Onetta purchase would not. Another of the resolutions is for a 3-year electric rate reduction. While I believe this is actually possible, it can only be accomplished if strict rules are put in place to stop utility revenue and reserves from being diverted to uses other than rate reduction. The third resolution, to issue a RFP to purchase a 46 megawatt reciprocating power generating turbine, runs counter to the master energy plan that was produced at the council's request. I truly believe that the city-owned utilities can and should be a real benefit to the citizens and ratepayers. They should be operated in a professional, business-like manner with a goal of benefiting the citizens and ratepayers with continued excellent service at the lowest possible rates. If the city administration and utility staff can't see their way clear to achieve that goal, then maybe it is time to put the utilities on the auction block and let business-minded owners take over.
1 minute, Mr. Croft.
Thank you. That isn't something that I want to see happen, but it makes absolutely no sense to continue down the path that we are currently on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Croft. Our next speaker is Dave Brooks, who wishes to speak on smart meters. Mr. Brooks.
Madam Mayor, City Council, thank you. I want to give a huge thanks to all the citizens that have come together as a community to stop the so-called smart meters. And a big special thanks to Lucy Young, who has spent the last 4 weeks collecting signatures 7 days a week, nonstop. And Debbie Pixler and Michelle Ann Turley, and many others that have helped the ones that I'm not allowed to mention. We are proud of the ones that stood up to help us and the community, and not their own agendas. This community has already had enough so-called new technology, and it has tried to run us out of our houses and homes with electric bills that all of a sudden doubled or tripled the minute the new billing system was put into place, which is still having issues almost a year after introduced. I listened and read from approximately 1,000 complaints about the electric bills, many retired and low-income citizens, single mothers struggling to survive, all of a sudden being held ransom to an electric bill payment that is higher than some of our house payments. And when we asked why, we were told it's just hotter than last year, which we all knew was a lie. Some of these citizens had to get a second job and a third job just to pay the bill. And it was pay or get shut off. There was never negotiations or fact-checking, just threat to cut off the power. I hope I never have to listen to another cigarette salesman like Jason White, who says that we are getting smart meters whether you like it or not. This community is full of a bunch of, he says this community is full of a bunch of libertarians that are just here for entertainment for him. And cigarettes are good for us, and there's no proof they will harm us. And all the talk about this is garbage. The only garbage we had was a cigarette salesman trying to force us into buying his garbage. We have heard before, we know this until more studies have been done. We are lab rats to be tested with. We don't want to be that. They say no price increase. We're just going to add that $50 million to your tax bill. No big deal. After discussing many issues with approximately 1,000 members that got involved in independence with internet discussion forums, and top priorities seem to be the crime and ignored decaying infrastructure and flooding issues in Independence. The citizens The crime rate, according to the cityrating.com, says the state violent crime is over 30% higher than national average. After talking to many of the police officers, fine independence police officers, they say we need more officers, more than we do a new building. How are we going to get new business here where the crime rate is over the top? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Susan Kaneto, who wishes to speak on the regional animal shelter. Nobody's answering.
Is the alarm off?
Yeah.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, council members, my name is Susan Kaneto. I live at 3407 South Davidson Court in Independence. I'm not going to take up 5 minutes of your time. I can see that you have a very busy schedule this evening. I have it down to 2 minutes, assuming that I don't have to stop for applause. I'm here to talk about the animal shelter and the future of the regional center. One of my duties as a volunteer is to call follow-up adopters. I make those phone calls to see how things are going, if everything's going well with the adoption process. I hear amazing stories of what those pets mean to the people who adopt them. Often I hear they're not pets, they're members of the family. One survey claims that 77% of pet owners admit to talking to their pets like they do their family members. Anybody else admit to that? I hear many reasons that I'm here to advocate for these pets and people. I've been part of informal discussions that talk about how best to transition from Great Plains SPCA to a city-run shelter. I'm here tonight with what I hope is good news for the council. I'm tired of hearing all the negative things about council members in a city-run shelter. I have confidence in the ability of the mayor and the council to find a solution that can sustain a no-kill shelter with the quality programs that provide fiscal and benefits and support to animals and adopters. There are many volunteers and a core group of volunteers who are here tonight that have much treasure and talent that they can bring to help in that process. I understand that one way to get through that would be creating a use tax. I urge the council to get that on a ballot as soon as possible to give the community the option to ensure sufficient funding. I pledge my support for a campaign that shows that Independence cares about people and the pets that they talk to and love. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Laura Kramer, who wishes to speak about the animal shelter funding.
My name is Laura Kramer, and I am a resident of Independence, Missouri, District 2. Currently, I am a member of a very dedicated group of volunteers at the current Jackson County Regional Animal Shelter. Prior to this, I was actually an employee of Great Plains SPCA and worked at the regional shelter for 5 years. In the very near future, the City of Independence will be provided with the unique opportunity of taking over as manager of the regional shelter. The shelter is a beautiful, spacious, state-of-the-art facility that not many communities are lucky to have. Many customers visit the facility on a daily basis and on the most part are very impressed with it. More than 16,000 animals have passed through the facility in the past 5 years, so there are many personal experiences that members of the communities have had here. And I believe that all involved, including a large number of the city's registered voters, are ready and willing to do everything that is possible to ensure the animals of this city continue to have this no-kill facility they can be proud of. We all know the first step in achieving this goal is to secure sufficient funding. So we, as a dedicated volunteer group, are here tonight to show our support and respectfully request that a special use tax be added to the next available ballot, with a portion of the proceeds going to the cost of shelter operations. Other cities have had success in instituting this type of a tax to fund animal shelter initiatives, most recently with the City of Liberty to raise money for their construction of a new shelter. I am confident that many in the community would be in favor of this tax to give them the peace of mind knowing that the animals of the community had a shelter where they would be well cared for and had everything they need. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker, I'm going to have a little trouble making out this name. I think it's David Swensen. Yes, okay. If you would please come forward. That's okay. Who wishes to speak about smart meters?
Actually, I think I put down the council, the citizens, and smart meters. It's the relationship between the council and the citizens, I think, that may have been damaged over this issue. It seems like it's coming back and getting into place now where maybe we can talk to each other and get along. I listened to all the discussion about smart meters for a long time. I got to wondering about something I was not hearing about. Where did this all start? I got on the internet and I found out it took 2-3 minutes. This is a part of the UN Agenda 21 for saving electricity, cutting down on the use of electricity. And I'm all for cutting down the use of electricity. I try to do it every day. But this has, the way it's being done is that poor people suffer the worst on this if you think about it. The people have the money, don't have to worry about paying a higher rate at certain times of the day. The poor people do. It is a burden on the poor. And I don't consider myself poor. I'm certainly not rich. When this went into effect in Great Britain, there was, and this is a separate comment, paragraph, when the smart meters were put into Great Britain, there was a 100 permission to opt out. Nobody was forced to take it. Now, we fought the British for our liberty, and if we don't have the liberty to opt out, we've lost our liberty. This bothers me. I was in the service. Anybody that's been in the service has taken an oath to the Constitution of the United States and defended against its enemies, not only foreign but domestic. And that's where I stand on this issue right now. I myself can get along with a smart meter. I don't want to. I will opt out if I have the opt out. But this is the place where I would like to break a rule of the city council and change subjects. I have a cat that I talk to. She talks back. She has a secretary that fills out a shopping list for me. Good cat.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jason White, who'd like to speak on the opt-out policy. Mr. White.
Hi, I'm Jason White. I have presented here many times on the smart meters, and every time we've advocated for an opt-out policy. We've looked over the opt-out policy you've got. It's been a while, but about a year ago when this was pretty hot, we looked at a lot of opt-out policies around the country. You've got the most liberal one we can find. That's good. Quite frankly, there are folks that are concerned about it. There's folks that are just stirring the pot because it's entertaining to them to keep things in turmoil. But for the people that are genuinely concerned about this issue, that's good policy. We hope you adopt that opt-out policy. There were some comments mentioned earlier, and I hope they're clarified either in questions or in amendments, clarifying that they're going to hang on to their current analog. That was the intent of the opt-out policy, that they don't get the smart meter on their building, they hang on to what they had. So if there's a question on that, can we please clarify it? You do allow renters to utilize the opt-out. They got to get the approval of the owner. So I hope you get that clarified out there as well. The other good point that was made was if you do move forward with having a rate reduction based on the current revenues, then that ought to be taken into consideration. I think as time goes on, as in other communities, this demonstrates a savings in rates. And so those folks that haven't opted out, so there's a financial argument to be made there. Not the time, the place, push that out 5, 10 years, it doesn't matter. the benefit from the smart meters for those folks that recognize that is going to more than compensate for the fact that there are going to be a small number of people that will opt out. Last thing I would like to say is as you move forward, you've got to inform folks about it. It's been a draft form. It just became visible about a week ago. That really hasn't been fair to the conversation. You've had a lot of folks that have been very, very concerned about that issue, and it's late to the game. It inspires distrust. Last comment, as I now understand, I'm the cigarette salesman. And I've been called a lot of things in my life. That's quite all right. But as a cigarette salesman, I would like to note that the real opponent of cigarettes in the United States of America is the American Cancer Society. So I would challenge you to go Google them. Google them and ask for smart meters. They have a very good policy statement. In that policy statement, it goes through all the factors involving smart meters. The money statement is, it is very unlikely that living in a house with a smart meter increases your risk for cancer. So as the resident cigarette salesman, I will opt out to the knowledge of the American Cancer Society. Please move forward.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brenda Perry, who would like to speak about cloud-based systems.
A friend of mine who subscribes to LifeLock Security Services shared this with me regarding an alert that she received. On Monday, April the 29th, a pair of security researchers found a data leak of up to 80 million U.S. households from an unprotected online database from an improperly secured cloud server. The exposed database included physical addresses, first and last names of the individuals in the household, ages, dates of birth, titles, genders, marital status, income, homeowner status, dwelling type, and longitude and latitude of the household. The database had been potentially leaking information since February this year. In another incident reported on April the 3rd, software developers stored more than 540 million records containing private data of Facebook users in a way that allowed public download from Amazon's improperly secured cloud servers. These cloud server breaches are happening in huge and frightening levels. They're obviously not foolproof. Mistakes happen. Yet we're to believe that this won't happen to an AMI cloud server. Why take the chance?
We did have two other speakers who signed up. I believe they want to speak at the public hearing. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, so that concludes our citizens' requests to speak. We will move on with our presentation resolution, recognizing our Employee of the Month.
Whereas the City Employee Recognition Program recognizes outstanding performance by employees of the City of Independence, and whereas an employee committee selects Employee of the Month for exhibiting the qualities and ideals that best represent public service, and whereas the Employee Recognition Committee has selected Greg Knopf, Senior Electronics Technician in the Power and Light Department, as Employee of the Month for May 2019. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Independence, Missouri as follows: that the City Council joins in recognizing Greg Knopf as City of Independence employee for the month of May 2019.
Okay, thank you very much. I would entertain a motion for approval of this resolution.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Weir?
Yes, Greg was not able to be with us tonight, but we will congratulate him for his work and his dedication to the City of Independence and provide him with his resolution. This takes us to our proclamations. Our first is for National Historic Preservation Month.
Whereas Historic Preservation Month is celebrated annually throughout the month of May, both locally and nationally, in order to recognize the significant role that preservation plays in our daily lives, and whereas the 2019 theme is Hidden History, to recognize locations and stories of independence not commonly told. And whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for revitalizing neighborhoods and commercial districts, promoting sustainability, fostering civic pride, and maintaining character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is essential to the heritage tourism in a 21st century economy. And whereas the city's dedicated historic site volunteers and preservation advocates provide unwavering support for our cultural resources. And whereas the promotion and preservation of the city's historic buildings and sites is critical to the identity of Independence. And whereas historic preservation is significant for communities across the nation, for Americans of all ages, from all walks of life and all ethnic backgrounds. Now therefore, Mayor Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, does hereby proclaim the month of May 2019 as National Historic Preservation Month, and calls upon all the citizens of Independence to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in these special observance.
Okay, thank you very much. And Amy Hart is here this evening to accept this proclamation. Thank you. Our next proclamation is for Building Safety Month.
Whereas the City of Independence is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster. And whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of the public safety, our local code officials, who assure us safe, efficient, and livable buildings that are essential to America's prosperity. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety and economic investment at a home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire and prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now therefore, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, does hereby proclaim the month of May 2019 as Building Safety Month in Independence, and encourages our citizens to join with their communities in participation in Building Safety Month activities.
Thank you very much. Eric Fitch is here to accept this proclamation. Okay, next is Emergency Medical Services Week. City Clerk.
Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the members of EMS teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas emergency medical services embody the true concept of teamwork by recognizing the independent relationship among the trauma centers, EMS system hospitals, emergency physicians, emergency nurses, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, educators, administrators, and others who dedicated to saving lives. And whereas the members of EMS teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas the City of Independence Fire Department has been providing emergency medical services at the emergency medical technician level since 1993, supplementing with paramedics beginning in 2000, with 57 paramedics and 117 EMTs currently on staff, and the American Medical Response has been providing emergency medical services, including transport, at the paramedic level since 1994. And whereas this year's national theme, EMS Strong, Beyond the Call, reflects their evolving role as healthcare providers beyond the 911 response, and recognizes the EMS professionals who go beyond the call every day to create positive change in their communities with direct, long-lasting impact. Therefore, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, does hereby proclaim the week of May 19th through May 25th, 2019 as Emergency Medical Services Week, and calls this observance to the attention of the community and encourages them to join in this special observance.
Okay, thank you. We always do two proclamations for EMS Week, one for Paul Weininger AMR, who's a great partner with us in the city, and one for our fire department, which I guess, Chief, you're going to accept this this evening? That's not what I had written down. Oh, thank you. Okay, and lastly this evening, we have a proclamation for Kids to Park Day.
Whereas May 18th, 2019 is the 9th annual Kids to Parks Day, organized and launched by the National Park Trust, held annually on the third Saturday of May. And whereas Kids to Parks Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks, public lands, and waters. And whereas it is important to introduce a new generation to our local, state, and national parks. And whereas we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat the issues of child obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and hypoglycemia. I got this right last year. Okay, thank you. And whereas Kids to Park Days is open to all children and adults across the country to encourage a large and diverse group of participants. And whereas the Kids to Park Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and the outdoors. Now therefore, Eileen and Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, Missouri, does hereby proclaim May 18th, 2019 as Kids to Parks Day and encourage our citizens to participate in Popsicles in the Park on Tuesday evenings from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. in June and July, and Toddler Town on tour on Wednesday mornings from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Okay, thank you. Jeff? Okay, that concludes our proclamations for this evening, and this takes us to the consent agenda.
Mayor Weir,
Yes, Councilman Van Camp.
I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items any council member wishes hold for separate consideration? Yes, go ahead.
The resolution 19733, is this the time?
Yes.
All right. Now, the public hearing will be later, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And the first readings, all right.
Yes. Okay.
I move to poll 19733.
Okay. Any other items? Yes, Councilman.
19739,
Okay.
19740, and 19741.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
19736.
Okay. Okay. Any others? Okay. Hearing none, Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll on the consent agenda minus resolutions 19733, 19736, 19739, 19740, and 19741.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry I missed 6.
6? Number 6?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And item number 6.
Council members Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Councilmember Van Camp, Resolution 19733.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I brought forth an opt-out policy that was okayed by the utility board and doesn't reflect all of the situation here. I would move that we take this back to staff and work out.
Okay.
Second?
Is there a second? Okay, it's moved and seconded to remand the opt-out policy back to staff for further consideration. Is there any discussion? Yes?
Well, as been pointed out earlier, it's probably one of the most generous opt-outs of any utility that has an opt-out. And all I think we need to do is just clarify a couple of the things in that opt-out. So.
Very good. Okay, any further discussion? Yes?
Clarification is one thing. What the people want and what they have so generously shared with us is another. And this is something that has to be addressed meticulously.
Very good. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Robertson,
No.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, motion passes. Councilmember Doherty, 19739.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to know, first of all, why this hasn't been sent to the Public Utility Advisory Board for discussion, and that's something it needs to do, so I can't support it for that reason. The other thing is, what I want to know is where these come from. You just don't arbitrarily cut a budget unless you determine what it comes out of, where it comes from, how you arrived at it. My question is, and I guess we could send that to the city manager or somebody, what would a rate reduction mean to the city on that, and how did they arrive at that?
I can't speak to the percents outlined specifically. I'll give Councilmember Huff an opportunity to do that. But to your question about impact, the electric utility generates about $145 million annually. Of course, the city gets the 9.08% pilot off of that. So rough math over a 3-year period, because this is phased in over 3 years, that'd be just a little over $1 million, so about $1.4 million net impact
Okay.
to the general fund in terms of the pilot we get there. Of course, then the reduction to the electric utility as well.
So my question is, how do you arrive at this? I mean, where does this savings come from?
Where I come with that is they had a comparison sent out here of all the local utilities. Springfield were 24% higher than they are. Blue Springs were 19, Columbia were 15. I just come up with that number to get more in line with them as far as, the impact on we're not going to lay off police or fire or anything like that, is that correct?
I would not make a recommendation that's going to alter our public safety. I've, in fairness to the council, I've not sat down and figured out exactly how we would accommodate, other than obviously we know we would, but we're not going to do, we'll do our best to make sure we don't impact service delivery or something of that nature, and that would probably be the last place we would look.
I got a couple more things on this. First of all, I hear a lot about this rate study. This was tabled in 2015 as a matter of $7.5 million. That was 4 years ago. 7.5 times 4 is $30 million we've shorted these citizens, these ratepayers, out of money. It's tabled. We've got a 19. Are we going to sit on it for 4 years and figure that out? I keep hearing all this charter violation. I think some people around here need to read the charter. It says we will give this back in rate reduction. These people and these citizens are demanding their money. And as far as going to the PUAB, I can address that also if you read at the bottom of this thing. Number 2, first of all, it directs the city manager to look into this. The second one says they have till November or August the 1st when it goes into effect for the PUAB to send back their recommendation. I highly doubt that anyone's going to send back a recommendation against that, but it'll go there first.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I do have a question about what we are asking the city manager and the PUAB to consider. Is the PUAB being asked, would the PUAB, under your resolution, be asked to come up with how we would accomplish that rate reduction, or just to endorse that we do it?
I don't know why you'd have to worry about how you was going to do it. I mean, the money's there. Another $5 million going to be deposited. Now we're up to 150-something days.
Well, I wouldn't want a board doing your job. I mean, you're responsible for what goes here, and we've talked this over quite a bit. I think this is very workable. This is down, and over the next years.
Wait a minute, excuse me. Who has talked this over?
All of us, haven't we? I mean, we have a rate reduction that we did 2% of, right? And we were the only ones.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
We were the only ones to do that. You're bringing forth now a 3% or 4% with the following years to see how it applies and where it goes. If $1 million is the difference from what the 2% was, this is a good deal. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, we do have, the council has approved a utility rates committee, which consists of myself, Councilman Huff, and Councilman Van Camp. We've been meeting on a regular basis to gain information and dig into how we will be able to lower the rate. I would ask that we potentially amend this resolution to ask that we put together a plan to the City Council by August 1st of 2019, what steps would need to be taken to lower the rate over a period of time.
So we're going to go halfway through the summer again. We have people out here that are hurting. They don't know whether they're going to pay their utilities, buy food. This needs to be done. We need to vote on this.
Mayor, I have several questions, Mayor.
Okay.
I have several questions, and let me preface it by saying that every single one of us on the council would like to lower rates for the City of Independence. Our residential rates are close to the rates of our surrounding communities, but the commercial rates are substantially higher. And so this is lowering all the rates. It will not touch the commercial rates and get us in the ballpark yet of some of the surrounding. But be that as it may, we all want lower rates, and we're all heading in that direction. First of all, I have a number of questions that I'd like to ask, and I'll probably ask you, Councilman Huff, since this is your resolution. So with this resolution, I see no business plan. Do you have a business plan?
That's all I'm doing is moving along. You sat on this since 2015.
We're to run this like a business, according to the charter.
That's what it says.
This is not a business plan.
It says you will reduce the rates. You will reduce the rates.
Where's the
with
projection?
The excess money.
Where's the projection of income and expenses? I don't see any. There's been no discussion of this council about this until tonight. So it came to me Friday when I picked up my package.
Just like everything
This
else.
is the first discussion, just like the AMI and everything else was.
Right.
So there's been no discussion, there's been no study of it. Is there going to be an offsetting 10% income to IPL to offset the 10% reduction
They already
in
have
rates?
a bank full of money, Scott. I'm sorry, Councilman.
10%, according to the budget, will put us in deficit spending in 3 years, maybe before 3 years. IPL will be spending more than we take in. That means that you're going to have to vote for a rate increase at that point. Are you prepared to do that?
Yeah, what I've said all along is we need to look at expenses. You're always worried about the income. It's the expenditures we need to take care of out there. We've got coal handlers out there that we don't even have coal for 3 years.
We have a
people everywhere.
We have a substantial amount in reserves right now, but 33 million of that reserves are borrowed money. It's borrowed money, and we're making bond payments on it right now. We have to make the bond payments, and if we reduce our income, we won't be able to make the bond payments. That's going to affect our ownership of Dogwood now. We own 12% of Dogwood, and that 33 million is going toward the payments toward our ownership right now of Dogwood.
Mm-hmm.
That could compromise our ability to bond further. And what if we can't? What if we can't borrow any money further if we're running in deficit spending? Our bond rating will be lowered. Deficit spending by IPL will require us to have a rate increase. This is not a business plan just to, across the board, say a 10% rate.
You're missing the part of the charter that says you're going to refund this back to the citizens.
You're going to borrow money to refund back to the citizens? That's what you're doing.
No, you pigeonholed $10 million for AMI. You pigeonhole money for sub-R, sub-S. They don't even exist.
This hasn't anything to do with that.
Yes,
that has anything to do with it.
Okay. You win, Scott.
This is not a business plan. It's not a business plan.
That's fine. I move we vote.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. During Councilman Roberson's comments, he was talking about our our bond payment of $30 million. And I heard some gasps, and when I first got on the council, I had the same gasp that we bonded that kind of money. That was on before I was on the council, and some of these members here too, if I remember right. So, Mr. City Manager, can you explain a little bit about why we have $30 million that we have had to borrow and pay in debt service to, please?
Generally speaking,
Please,
and we
thank
could
you.
do a study session on this one. We have a significant expense associated with operating the utility. So capital projects like maintaining substations and our power lines. I think we're all proud of the reliability of our system, that the power doesn't go out very often. When it does, how hard our crews work to get those back on. But we borrowed money, and the year eludes me exactly. I think the last issuance was 2015 or 16, somewhere in there. But cost of doing business there, borrowing to do the capital projects there. So we did not have the cash on hand to do those, so the decision was made by management and council at that time to borrow money to do those capital projects.
That sums it up. Thank you. I sure appreciate that.
Any other comments or questions?
If I may.
Yes.
The council that raised these rates did so because they had improvements to be made. We have a sufficient fund at IPL to cover this. I admire the council that did that. We got to a point and we become profitable. Now it's time to reduce them. This, by all accounts, will not affect in a horrendous way or haphazardly the general fund. I think this is a move and a logical and somewhat overdue to give back to the people of the city.
Any other comments or questions?
Move.
I will, our cost of service study will be presented to the council next Monday night. We have a IPL staff that has been directed to work with us to lower this rate. We have directed our city manager already to work with this council on a plan to lower our rate. This council unanimously supported the creation of a utilities committee on this council to investigate how to arrive at the correct rate for this city. I am involved with all of those efforts to lower our rate. Our rate is too high, but I am not going to support this resolution to do it in this manner. Any other comments or questions?
Yes, at the last meeting, Madam Mayor, you stated that this committee was not there for rate reduction.
That I said, Councilman, which I have, is that this committee exists to determine what is the right rate in all of our categories for the citizens of Independence. In some cases, that certainly is warranted to be a reduction.
Well, we've been waiting since 15 for this reduction.
I was on this council in 2015.
And these citizens are tired of it. They want some action.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll. We do need a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
No.
Robertson,
No.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
No, motion fails. A resolution fails. Councilmember Doherty, 19740.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This should also go to the Public Utilities Advisory Board. We really ought to have more of a study session on this to get the correct figures on this. I've been told earlier tonight by the councilman who put this on, Mr. Councilman Huff, that figures were not correct that we were given on this. So it's hard to make a proposal if you don't have correct figures. So I can't support something where we don't have the correct figures on the cost of this power.
Yes, Councilman?
This is put on there, and it does say, again, I'm abiding by the charter, that's all I'm asking for information. I have been for 3 or 4 months now to get the right numbers, apples to apples. We're still playing around with 70 megawatts when it should be 46. How can you compare anything when you don't have the right numbers? So that's what this resolution is, for information gathering only. It's not saying that we are going to go with Dogwood. We want an actual number, apples to apples.
Mayor.
Yes.
So my question is why? Why Dogwood?
Why not?
Well, we're being asked to reduce. We're being asked to consider capacity. This is ownership, so it's energy, and it's energy that we don't need because we already have existing contracts to cover all of the energy needs of Independence. So this is covering capacity over and above that so that we can have membership in Southwest Power Pool. In fact, the energy that we've had potentially at Blue Valley was a lot more than we needed. We didn't need that much to be a member of Southwest Power Pool. So we have a capacity as a requirement, not energy. This happens to be the most expensive option, not in the just in the short term, but also in the long term. New figures that they came out with extend the life and the interest just to justify lowering the cost. But why didn't they submit that? They could have submitted that for the RFP, just like everybody else submitted. So why wasn't that submitted through the council manager's office, the city manager's office, and the IPL staff?
Well, I'm still wondering about that myself, Scott. I'm sorry, Councilman Robertson.
Dogwood actually puts all of our eggs in one basket. We already have a significant amount of energy that we own at Dogwood, and if we own more, that means that we have put a lot of our energy in gas. It's going to change in the years ahead, maybe in the next 5 years, let alone the next 10. And the Master Energy Study, so all the experts that have looked at everything, Councilman Huff, have recommended against it. They've already recommended against it. Why wouldn't we, after paying all this money, $350,000 for studies, and we don't take their advice, and we don't look at their numbers? And I have the numbers, and it's substantial. I mean, it's a lot of material to go through. Dogwood ownership is going to be more than 20 years. You know, some of you have spoken against having a 20-year contract, but if we own Dogwood, we're going to own it for life, not just 20 years. That means that we're going to be on the hook as owners to also clean it up when that life is done, just like Blue Valley. We're going to have another Blue Valley on our hands. So it's projected to be a lot more expensive in the next 10 years, next 15 years. So Dogwood ownership is going to be a lot more liability for IPL and the city. It's going to end up at the end of its life to be a significant amount of expense because of the share that we own in operating and maintenance and then cleanup of that site. So I'm not for this. I'm not for this at all. I'm for going with the recommendations of the experts. And I would recommend that the council consider those recommendations. So.
If I might, Mayor.
Yes, Councilman.
At the end of 20 years, just as in the other, we start going away. It's at the end of the contract. And just like not building any more power plants, which they have, 150 or more, instead of none at all, I mean, the question here is, have we the right information? In your master plan originally, they had Dogwood as the one to do. When you're willing to risk and you're not putting yourself at the mercy of a catastrophe, such as what happened in Wyoming on the coal, and you're moving at 300 instead of 315 megawatts to get what you need. All these questions are here. All these oranges and apples, as we have been saying. We are two different boilers out there, built by the same people who built the capacity boilers in the same years. They're going to last the same amount of time. What you're going to have at the end of 20 years is a viable income. And before that, make money, as it has this year, with the opportunity to. I'm not saying it's always going to be that way, but I'm not willing to put this city at a risk to where we cannot get what we need when we need it. Dogwood allows us the energy and capacity, and they want to come forward. And it should be that we go look at it and get the right numbers.
Yes.
I have a couple other comments to follow up. Dogwood, according to their balance sheet, at best, has only been broken even. It's never made money. In the last year, it was only called on 30% of the time to produce energy for the Southwest Power Pool. 30% of the time, that means 2/3 of the time it's not producing energy, it's sitting there, and we're making the payments. If Dogwood's such a good deal, why do they want to sell it? Because they're not making money on it.
I have a comment to say about that. Oneida, or whatever the name of this other outfit, is for sale right now. And why are they for sale? We're going to sign a contract. We're going to sign a contract with somebody we don't know who we're going to be buying from. Another point of that is,
wouldn't be
do
the
they have a
owners either.
must-offer contract?
We're
There's
not
all
buying
kinds of
Oneida.
stuff.
We're not buying Oneida. We're only buying a capacity.
And here, you know, the other night you said that they're not building,
buying
they
a
haven't
plant.
built any more power plants in 20 years. They haven't been on for 20 years. Well, I'm going to correct you on it. They have. In 2014, they just did a coal file in Illinois. There's over 150 power plants being built today. But, you know, I do agree with you one thing. Supply, these less and less people are rebuilding. So sooner or later, the thing's going to change. And then, when there's no power from SPP, because that's not an endless thing, when they're out and we call upon them and they don't have any, or you're paying thousands of dollars for a megawatt, then you're going to really find out. Supply goes down. It's simple supply demand. Supply goes down, demand goes up, because everybody here is saying this demand's going up. So what are you going to do? Are you going to just tell our citizens, hey, sorry, we can't get you no power because we're on a capacity only, which you do never get a delivery of power.
And so
Never.
when gas goes up, they're not going to run
You can
Dogwood
hedge
and you won't
against it.
sell any.
You're hedging against it. They go up, we go up. We own it.
Southwest Power Pool's the buyer. And when it goes up, they're going to buy cheaper power other places. There's a lot of other places.
We'll see.
They're buying it now. They're buying it from the wind farms that are cheaper right now. That's why it's only running 30% of the time.
That's today. It's down the future. You're worried about the future.
I'm not willing to risk that.
Yeah. I'm not risking these citizens.
I want to make a good business decision, though. Mike.
Better do more research.
Mr.
Sorry. I see his hand up.
I do have a question regarding this resolution to direct the city manager to issue a request for proposal. We are, just in a little bit, going to have a public hearing on Blue Valley, and one of the options is Dogwood. So I'm just trying to understand why you're recommending that we do a separate proposal other than what was already provided to us in the study that we received.
Because we are not getting the facts. I've asked and asked and asked. That is my thing. Everything's tilted. These are not true facts.
Okay.
There's so many facts out there, it's ridiculous.
It's funny that AMI, we had a vendor come in and tell us all the things, and all of a sudden we have staff doing this. Why didn't the vendor? This is more money than that. Why aren't they in here doing this?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Given,
Yes, Mr.
if the
Seaman.
council is inclined to go forward with the resolution here, one suggestion I might ask, because it would still be my desire to try to commit to a path before the end of the month. The end of the month is the deadline to submit our intentions to the Southwest Power Pool for a ruling by November. And just given the multiplicity of issues we're dealing with, I think it's good to try to get some resolution around this. So maybe rather than reissue, if the council member is open to it, rather than reissue a new RFP, we have the one from Dogwood that we could seek a best and final or clarification of whatever that may be. But if it's okay, rather than issue a new RFP, we could sit down with these folks as early as tomorrow with their existing response to the RFP that we sent out and clarify the information that's in there, seek a best and final from them, and put that, as you say, apples to apples in front of the council's nose in a matter of days. I think our experience would be that we'd be able to turn that around very quickly.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Just a
Oh,
moment.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Nope.
Madam City Clerk, do we need to amend the resolution?
At this point, the council
seek a
could direct.
Best and final offer from Dogwood?
Yes, we can do that.
I move to vote. Second, whatever.
Okay, just
No, that's fine.
to amend the resolution, not to issue an RFP, which will take 30 to 45, 60 days, but instead, as the city manager has suggested, to review the existing RFP and get a best and final offer from Dogwood.
Yes.
Okay, so I will offer that in the form of a motion that will require a second.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded to amend the resolution. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I have a
Yes.
comment. Everybody's given us their best and final. Why are we going to give Dogwood another chance?
I'm not sure that we.
I think there's clarification that is being requested.
Again, it just, if the council is inclined to move forward with the resolution, I think rather than reissue a whole new RFP when we have a basis to continue that conversation, if that would be the directive of the council, I would recommend going down that path to keep the conversation moving forward.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. A lot of passion, a lot of passion in this room, a lot of energy in this room. There's a lot of big decisions to be made in this room. I don't want to put you on the spot, Mr. Croft, but is he still here? Oh.
Yes.
When you were up here speaking, you spoke specifically about several of these that we're talking about now in the negative, that we would be violating a city charter violation. And when you left, moved from that podium, this room clapped. So I'm kind of torn here. I've heard a lot of applause, but you clapped when he spoke of us violating the city charter possibly. I disagree with you, but the room clapped. So that's the thought that I have. I'm just throwing that out there. But more importantly, I did receive information from Dogwood that I have talked to several council people about, and that I think this would be appropriate to move forward to see what type of apples-to-apples comparisons that we have. But for the record, I don't believe we are violating the city charter, but most of you thought we did. I just want to make that clear.
Okay. There is a motion to amend the resolution. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
Robertson?
No.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Weir?
Yes. Motion passes. We need a motion to approve the amended resolution. Councilmember Doherty?
I move for approval. Also have a comment.
Okay. Why don't we have a second?
Second.
And then we'll have, okay, it's
Second.
been moved and seconded.
All right.
Go ahead.
We belong to the Southwest Power Pool. That is our energy broker. They broker excess energy from their members, and we buy at the best price that they have at the time. What you all can't seem to get past out there, and I don't care which way you go, but we spent $30 million on the first piece we bought, and we still owe on it. And we're buying into a plant where right now we would just be buying electricity as needed through the broker. You're going to cut 10% of the profits, and then you're going to buy another chunk of a power plant that you already owe $30 million on. This really doesn't add up as a rate decrease any way you cut it. You can't borrow another $30 million and make the payments on that just to get the energy when we can buy the energy now through the Southwest Power Pool. And I met with the director of IPL as well as the former director, and they said right now energy is just absolutely extremely cheap. The wind farm is that correct, Huff?
Yes, that is.
So energy is extremely cheap. So our broker gets it to us at the best price. Why would we spend 30, 40, 50 million and make bond payments to buy into a plant? Because they're one of the people that are a member of the Southwest Power Pool. So that's my thought on this.
But times will change.
Sure. I mean, the next president may get in, stop the fracking, and natural gas go through the roof. So, yeah, it could. I mean, 30 years ago, who thought there wouldn't be coal, or 10 years ago, there'd be solar. So you never know what's going to go on, but we'll be making payments on this thing for 30, 40 years. You're right. You never know what tomorrow will bring, but we're still stuck with the payments on this thing.
And you can still sell the power.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Amended Resolution 19740. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Doherty?
No.
Robertson?
No.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Resolution passes. Councilmember Doherty, 19741.
Pretty much the same thing. This is where we're going to buy a generator. Okay. Now, I'm all for that. I think we should get the old worn out stuff out. Why 46 megawatt? That is just basically tops us off to what we need. It doesn't give us the capacity that we have to buy. It's my understanding that, is that correct, that the 46 megawatts is what we need to have our full load in the summertime? So why 46 megawatts? Why not 100? And then we wouldn't have to buy capacity. And again, you're going to cut 10% out of your budget, and you're going to buy another generator. Again, how are you going to pay for the generator? You're going to have to borrow the money for it, and you're going to have to make the payments on. Now, I'm not against it. I can pay my bill. And if it means more than to buy a new generator, so be it. But just remember, you can't borrow this kind of money. And by the way, there wasn't even a price on here what this is going to cost us, or not even a ballpark on this sheet. So, you know, you want to pay, 10, 12, 20, 30 million, you're going to make payments on that. Well, how are you going to make payments on it if you've cut the money down to where you're even on a prior commitment? So be very careful on what you want. And I want a new generator. I'd like to get the old oil-fired peakers out of here, the ones that use fuel oil, and go with something more cost efficient. But because the power is so cheap, this is why there's a slowdown in the building of plants, because of the cost to build them. It's the cost of building them, and the payments don't outweigh the fact that they've got cheap energy prices today. So be very careful. You'll have to make payments on this, and that payment will have to be reflected in the rate. Any way you go, there's no way around that.
And that's exactly what I'm saying, the future. You just said it exactly. There's going to be a shortage of power one of these days. I think it was March the 27th. It went from $30 to $300. Go ahead and throw $300 out there for about 10 hours on a megawatt hour.
Right.
See what that costs this city.
And these plants are doing like OPEC did with the oil. They're cutting production to prop the price up. Wind has ruined their prices, and they're cutting production to raise the price.
And once again, I asked for this for the last 2 months, apples to apples. I'm getting comments like 126 million, which is a full-blown 98 megawatt plant.
126 million.
Yeah, whatever it was, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
126
And I asked for
million.
apples to apples.
I wonder what the
all
payment
I'm
is
asking
on
for. I'm
126
not saying,
million.
excuse me, I'm not saying we're buying it. What I want is a price. That's all I'm asking for. PUAB, just like if you read your thing there, they get the okay, they do the recommendation. That's all I want, is the numbers to be correct.
Yes, I agree. I don't know why we need a resolution to get a price, because
we can't get one. I've been asking for 3 months.
Okay. All right.
Any further discussion? Yes, Councilman. I'm sorry. Councilman Robertson.
Yeah, so again, with this resolution, there's no business plan, there's not even a figure. We had a study some time back which gave us some figures on this. I believe if we asked the IPL director, she could tell us which study and how much that was. But it doesn't even say where the turbines are going to be put. I mean, there's nothing in this resolution. There's no business plan. And how are we going to pay for close to $100 million?
I'm asking for numbers only.
And here we're purchasing energy when we already have contracts. We're already paying and have contracts for all the energy Independence needs.
Today.
And you're talking about buying right now more energy. If you're talking about putting it at Blue Valley, we've already voted as a council unanimously to close it down for the time being. So why are we purchasing more energy when we have been dwelling on capacity is really what we need to dwell on in order to close down Blue Valley. That's what we talked about initially. And so here you brought up two resolutions to purchase more power, more energy, and we already have energy contracts. The city is going to have to pay for those energy contracts, and now you're asking us to pay for another $100 million reciprocating turbine. It doesn't make financial sense. I mean, that's a significant amount of bond payments, and here you're talking about lowering the amount of income to IPL, but you want to increase the bond payments, and we're going to have trouble meeting the bond payments on $33 million that we still owe out of the $38 million that we bought into Dogwood already. So we're going to have trouble making the bond payments. We're going to have trouble meeting any sort of criteria to get new bonds issued. There has been no financial plan that I see here. And if Blue Valley, then why did we vote as a council to unanimously vote, to close it down? So, I mean, there's just too many questions to even consider this resolution for me. It's just, it doesn't make any business sense or financial sense. There's no background, there's no plan, and it greatly could affect the financial position of the city. There's many, many problems.
On this business plan you're speaking of, I kind of find it interesting that we're keeping 23 employees. We're going to, for a business plan, we're going to save $1 million, but we're going to go buy capacity for 1.6. That's $600,000. We don't have to spend. We just might leave the place open.
We're to enact policy, not do personnel decisions, Mike. I have nothing to do with the personnel decisions, and you shouldn't either.
I'm not. I'm talking about the money. It was in the paper.
Okay.
Yes, Councilman.
I don't know where to begin here. I understand that you're sold on capacity. Doesn't mean everybody is. It isn't a blanket statement that that's what we should be doing. That's what you want us to be doing. I haven't gotten the proper...
Well, we already have enough energy, so why pay for energy?
You say we have enough energy. You are willing to take that risk, and I understand that. You have a position, but that does not mean that everybody has the same position. I don't think we have compared and had the right information, and that's what you're asking for, is to get the information so that we can proceed, because there's a window of opportunity to go to SPP. Now, we have enough is never what you're saying. What we do is we get all our energy from SPP. That's who allots us. We have a contract. Having more so that we're covered eliminates us from the risk of not having enough. Capacity does not give us the substance. It's just there to cover. If we buy at a reduced or similar price to capacity and have that much energy to cover us, and quite frankly, the peak is 1 point. It's at 300. I'm saying it's 315. We've been there several times during the past years. It's something that we have to look at for the people. Maybe it comes down to, just like that there may be a vote to have AMI. But that's what the people are to decide. We're here to find out the facts, not just say this is what we did, and this is where we should be going forward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, here's a good one. I'm going to straddle the fence on this a little bit. I see where you're coming from, Councilman Roberson, and I also see where you're coming from, Councilman Huff. There are no numbers here of what this looks like, and this is the point to figure out what these hard numbers are, correct?
That is correct.
Correct.
All I want.
I will support this, but depending on how these numbers come back, where this placement is, I mean, there's a whole bunch of minutia here that we have no idea about at all. So my vote here does not guarantee a vote later in support of this, but I will support receiving these numbers and kind of see where we're at. So I just want to get that out there.
Okay. Councilman Doherty.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Doherty?
No.
Robertson?
No.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Resolution passes. Okay. Councilman Huff, 19736.
1936. Oh, you got to figure out where I'm at here. I'm still getting a lot of complaints on the billing, people not receiving their bills. I've asked numerous times what's going on. The last statement I had was the printer's not working. It's a brand new printer. Kind of bothered me, so I did a little more investigating and found out that last month we was 8 cycles behind. This month we're 4 cycles behind, and this poor printer guy is taking a beating. I would just want some explanation. What is going on? If we need to spend more money to get this thing fixed, let's do it. Kind of a weird thing about this is they was blaming the printer, and the electronic bills didn't get out there either. I don't understand what the printer has to do with an electronic bill. There's people out here, believe it or not, that do pay their bills, the elderly and some other people that pay their bills when they come. They don't wait till the end of the month. They do it as soon as they get there. When they're 2 or 3 weeks behind, they start worrying about it. So then they call customer service. So then we're employing more and more people out there to try to cover all this good stuff. I'm really confused on why we can't get this straight.
I'm going to ask Dan Montgomery, Director of Water, who oversees customer billing, to come up and try to address as many of these as we can, Council Member.
Dan Montgomery, Water Systems Director. The billing system has been improved. We keep working towards that goal. As far as bills not going out, I know that I'm in cycle 20. I got my bill Saturday, which was 1 day later than what it would have been. So the 4 and 5 days, and you know, when it first started, yes, we were behind, but currently all the bills are calculating correctly. We had a Verbal Blakely came and gave a presentation, and they're calculating correctly. There's like 100 some odd bills of people with dual meters, dual demands on the electric side that, quite honestly, we're working to get those fixed. As far as, you know, what is that? That's 0.03% of all the bills that are going out could have an issue. So we're working towards getting those done. So I don't know if you have a specific question.
Well, I'm just, you know, if we need more money out there, if we need to hire employees, if we need something to do, we've got to get this thing straight.
And we're making strides. We're working with the Powerlight staff. We have some change in the meter reading area, and we're getting those reads in. Every time you have inclement weather, or if you rain, anything that delays it, we don't have AMI, so we can't read. We can't get it during cold weather.
Well, You know, if we can't get this straight, I hate to see AMI thrown on this thing.
Pardon?
If we can't get this straight, I hate to throw AMI on this thing.
Well,
Are we having a cycle issue?
well, the billing cycles, there's 20 billing cycles, so we read them through. We constantly have a certain time when they need to get out. If the meter reads get behind, then we can't go to the next step, which is to true them up. Customers turn in a blue card that says what their meter reads are. If they can't get the reads in a timely manner, then those don't happen. If they can't get, we send them out for retakes. The retakes can't be read because the meter readers are not reading the retakes, so.
Well, I wish somebody would take responsibility out there for this. I mean, it goes from the mail room, now it's the meter readers.
Well, I mean, it's everything.
I know it's a difficult process, but
everything
we've got to get
affects-
this thing straight.
Correct. Everything affects from meter reading. It's all this is intermeshed. So you've got meter reading, you've got billing, you've got getting the mail out when it goes through the printer. If the printer can't get them out in a timely manner, we send it to an outside source and they mail them out. That happens too. Whatever we do, we've went everything we can do to speed it up, and we're working and getting better every day. I know that. I've seen that. So the folks that say that they're not getting bills, I know my bill was a day late, but I still have 20 days to pay it. It was a day late, but I have 20 days to get it paid before the due date. So we're getting better, to answer your question.
Well, that cycle out there by Target, the elderly people out there were telling me, hey, I got my bill, it's like 20 days late and I got 10 to pay it. I know you're not shutting them off because of that, but it's
Right.
These people get nervous in the service. They don't like that.
I just use mine as an example because that's where we are today.
Okay.
So as of Friday, we were a day off. So that's improvement. I think we're heading in the right direction.
Okay. I just need to know if you need more money.
So, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. Council member, do you want an additional update at the next, are you asking for, the next study session? Would you like a more thorough update, or is this sufficient this evening?
Sure, I'd like to kind of know how many's messed up. I want a number. How many accounts are messed up, not getting their bills on time.
When you say messed up, I'm
not getting them on time.
Again, if mine was a day off, that's a cycle. All the other 20 cycles would be the same day off. Now, if it rains tonight, and rains tomorrow, and rains 3 days in a row, then we'll probably be another day or two off. But with 20 cycles, and if there's 23 days in the month that we can get caught up, then by the end of the month, theoretically, we will get caught up. But if you got a holiday tomorrow or Wednesday, so the meter readers won't read then, so that'll put us a day behind.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Danny, we've been at this a long time, and I've asked you, and do you need more money? And you say it wouldn't do any good. It's the process, and you're working at it. But we are getting complaints. And
I understand.
So now I'm not here to throw you under the bus because I think that we are improving. The complaints are more than one day. All right. Now, if you're telling me that this, and I don't mean this to be argumentative, that this is the exception rather than the rule, and that the procedure's going on. And once again, and I admire you for using what you got, doing what you got, and not saying that money will help it. I haven't heard that in a long time. But if there's some help to be had, please, because this is a fiasco that has to be put to rest at some point. And I think that you're doing everything you can, and I think that you're progressing nicely, but we get the other burnt ends of that, as you well know. Thank you.
So I'll pull that. I'll just make a move to pull it.
Yeah.
Okay. Make a move to pull that, can't remember, 19736.
Just to suspend indefinitely.
Just suspend it indefinitely.
Okay, there's a motion to suspend indefinitely the resolution.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is Mr. City Manager, I think we'd like to continue to monitor this issue and maybe provide us, by the next study session, a more complete overview of how many customers may still be impacted by this. Is there any further discussion on the motion to suspend? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins, Doherty,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Did we get them all? Okay.
Oh, we got 6.
Oh, number 6, Councilmember Huff.
Yep, I'm just trying to figure out, we had a PO with these, and now we're having a change order for $34,000. I'm trying to figure out what brings that. Are we over hours, or, I mean, I'm totally lost on why we're asking for more money when it was sent out as a bid process. And, we usually allow 10%. Now we haven't, the other one was 15, but this is way beyond that. This is over 34%.
Yeah, we're beyond the original scope of that contract, council member, with Burns and Mack, who did the energy master plan. So this would be asking them to come back in and help with some of the different things we've talked about. And because we've exceeded that 10% change order amount, that's why we've got to come back to the council tonight and seek your approval if you want to move forward with this or not.
So they can justify the 34,000. I mean, I'm totally lost. I mean, they just keep coming to the trough for more, or do we have some kind of hourly thing, or how is this done?
Yeah, we've in the contract, and I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but there is an hourly fee schedule. This is probably an estimate on the high end of what we would need to answer some of the continuing questions associated with the power supply issue. I think, again, it's my recommendation we try to get this wrapped up as soon as we can so that we can, commit to a path on this power supply issue. So having some extra hands on deck to help with that is the basis of the recommendation tonight.
Yes.
Is this in addition to, or, I mean, do we have their expertise that are on the original contract? Can we call it in now?
So we've got the original contract which produced that energy master plan. We had change order authority in that, and
Well, this says rate study, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. So this, I mean, just the energy master plan, the AMI issue, we've all of those feed into this cost of service study. So as we've kicked around different scenarios there, we've used their outside expertise to help with that. So as we continue to flesh out some of these options to provide, as the term was used earlier, apples to apples comparison, that would be the basis of using some extra assistance to help get a expedited response back.
In looking into these matters, you feel that that's important and that we should have them?
Yeah, I think having that,
Those
again,
requested them.
yeah, the basis of the request, again, is to try to keep this issues moving forward. I think it's
Our
been
window of opportunity?
that, and as was stated earlier tonight, it's time to get all of these, including our rate structure, solidified and finalized, and all of these kind of, one begets the other and supports and feeds the other. So we're trying to just corral this once and for all.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. I think I might have been one of the ones that asked one of those questions, and I know AMI is a dirty word, but one of the questions that I did ask was, correct me if I'm wrong, if that is going to be a part of this study, and that is, what is the affected rate with or without AMI? Is that correct?
That is correct, and everybody will come back and join us again next week, same bat time. We have your scenario is going to be addressed along with some of these scenarios of the cost of service study. So what does a potential rate model look with or without, or if, or A or B or whatever. So that helps get those questions finalized and answered, and it's our intention to provide direct answers on that next week at the study session.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Item number 6 passes. Why don't we take a little 5-minute break before we get into the regular agenda? We'll convene in 5 minutes.
I'm not going to be non-committal on this one. Oh, no. Okay.
Mr. City Manager? Okay. We're going to proceed with our agenda. Our next item is a full public hearing on Blue Valley Power Plant closure and purchase power agreement. This was opened and continued from April 15th, 2019. We did have some people who signed up, so you don't need to sign up for a public hearing ever, but I think of the confusion between signing up for citizens to speak and this public hearing, some people signed up when they didn't need to, but I will go ahead and call people first. So the first person, Mrs. Young, would you like to come forward and speak on this? I'm sorry I didn't catch yours earlier, but feel free to come forward.
That's fine, and you're excused. Everybody is entitled to one mistake.
Thank you.
And I'll forgo my speaking to council to talk at the hearing here.
Okay.
Randall Hughes put together a master plan PowerPoint this past summer. And I've blown up the numbers that I'll present to you that shows that dogwood is good for this city. I don't know why we would ever consider renting power that we're never even going to use. It doesn't make common sense. This is ownership that will take our great-grandchildren and provide for them. Now, you can laugh and be smug all you want, but we've already proven that you're not reliable, and we want reliable power.
That's not right.
Okay. Philip? I'm sorry. Tell me your last name, Philip? Persica. Okay. If you would please step up and state your name for the record, please. Oh, here we go. Okay, thank you.
Yes, no problem.
How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you all for this opportunity to comment today. So my name is Philip Persica, and I work for Renew Missouri. Renew Missouri is a 501c3 nonprofit that advocates for the statewide advancement of energy efficiency and renewable energy policies. We have a Kansas City office, and it's located at 7431 Broadway Street. I'm commenting today to support the closure of the city-owned Blue Valley Power Plant and to propose investment alternatives beyond a long-term commitment to the Oneida Power PPA. We would recommend that the city look at clean energy resources or at a maximum investment of 5 years in the Oneida Power PPA in considering how to meet capacity requirements to meet the 12% excess demand. The PPA on the table is offering the lowest capacity pricing when looking at the long-term pricing, but there is potential for the capacity pricing to increase up to $35 per kilowatt a year in the final tranche in the PPA. When evaluating the wind resource, it does have a higher price of $33 in years 2024 through 2029, but this is a guaranteed price and will not fluctuate, unlike the Oneida plant. The price of wind is rapidly declining, and we would encourage the city to consider investment in wind projects to resolve future capacity concerns. Last spring, this council made a commitment to be more environmentally friendly with a commitment to be the greenest city in America. Your actions following the resolution have been consistent with that goal, and you have an opportunity before you tonight to go one step closer to making it a reality. Last month, the City of Kansas City Council approved ordinance number 190233, which entered Kansas City's municipal operations and a KCP&L's Renewables Direct program to be 100% renewable through a local wind project over a 20-year agreement. This program will be competitive with the retail rate and is expected to bring a savings to the city over the 20-year term and insulates them from rate increases and to fluctuations in fuel pricing. We encourage IP&L to invest in wind projects such as NextEra's or to defer to short-term solutions such as expanded energy efficiency programs, demand response programs, distributed energy resource programs, or to enter into a natural gas PPA for a maximum 5-year term so you can take advantage of new opportunities with battery storage or renewables, including solar and wind, that'll lower the rates here and in other places in our state. If you're unable to invest in a slightly more expensive wind now, we would encourage IPL to wait a few years and use one or all of the aforementioned solutions to meet your capacity requirements. This will allow for IPL to take advantage of upcoming renewable resources that have increasingly low and competitive pricing, can be built in our state, and can provide economic development opportunities and job opportunities locally. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brent Schandelmeyer. Thank you.
I'm Brent Schandelmeyer. I live at 3704 South Grand, Independence, Missouri. I just want to make basically 3 points. I want to celebrate the life of the Blue Valley Power Plant. It went online in July of 1958, and when I think of my own age and I think of that plant, probably no public facility has served our community so good for such a long, long period of time, and it's helped build a community that at that point had 30,000 people and now has 120,000 people. And we should thank the people who have staffed it and manned it over the generations, but understand that it's at the end of its life, and there's some thoughtful conversation that really needs to occur about the future of the people who shepherd that and guard that and fire it up when it's necessary. The second point I want to make, and this is a handout I've given you. This comes actually from the Southwest Power Pool. Independence Power and Light is a member of the Southwest Power Pool, and this is just factual information that I hope that can add to what has been a robust conversation. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, it shows that generating capacity by fuel type, and it shows how all the power in the Southwest Power Pool, this vast array, is sort of generated. And so the fuel type capacity is 40.3% natural gas. Then if you drop down the box below it, so that was the capacity. What was the actual generated capacity that was put onto the system? The generated capacity from natural gas was 23.4%. And then if you go to the right-hand side of the box, it says, what are the requests about putting additional power generation onto the system? And you look at that, that's less than 1% natural gas is being added to the system. So it raises sort of question is how does natural gas fit into the long-term picture for all utilities, whether it's municipally owned, whether it's investor-owned, whether it's a co-op. The backside, the other side of the document, is really the financial information from the Dogwood Energy Facility. The city is currently a 12.5% owner of this, and these are financial projections from a budget document that was approved and adopted. These aren't my numbers, these are numbers actually from the Dogwood Energy Facility. So at the top says approved, that's their approval, not my approval, and this is page 2. So if you want to look and understand how the Dogwood might perform, this was the adopted budget. It shows in 2019, it expects to lose $1.8 million. In 2020, these are calendar years, I presume, is $400,000. The next year, basically a $500,000 loss, and you can follow that out. So over the next 5 years, when you add that all up, and the math at the bottom of the graph is my math, I added those 5 up, the Dogwood Energy Facility is expected to make $3,000. And that's the next 5-year projection. So maybe over the longer term life, maybe year 6, maybe year 7, maybe year 8, maybe year 12, maybe year 15, this may prove profitable, but over the next 5-year period, it is basically a break-even operation for which we currently own 12.5%. And so to the degree that we increase our ownership in it, we would have a fractional larger amount of that. So those are the points which I wish to make. I, based on the earlier council resolution, I know additional fact-finding is going to occur, and I would hope that these were facts that might be included and looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jansen, did you want to speak at the public hearing?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Councilman, attendees, a lot of people still in the room. I'm glad you're sticking around for the discussion. My name is Rob Jansen. I am the Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer of Dogwood Energy, and I'm here to provide the facts and answer the questions that have been posed during this process. We have monitored the process, and there's been a lot of, I would say, confusion or misinformation about our statistics and our financials and the details of the proposals, as well as some assumptions made during the process that I would simply like to clarify. So you have all the facts in front of you when you're making your decision, regardless of whether you decide in favor of Dogwood Energy or not. You had a very robust RFP proposal. You had a lot of the competitors that we expect to see. I think you got very good results coming in. And now, in my opinion, you're challenged with all the discussion points that everybody else the utility industry has at this point. What's the right investment as the technology is changing, as the industry is changing? What's it mean? What kind of timing do we go forward with, and how do we make sure we're doing the right thing? So what, in my opinion, in my previous life as a consultant, I monitored RFP processes for consumers and public service commissions. You're having all the debates that need to be had, even though it probably feels a little difficult. Just to get started, we weren't exactly sure how to participate in this process. We couldn't find a lot of policy information about how we as an outside entity would proceed. So we monitored as best we could, and last Friday we presented some information that we thought would at least start the discussion of correcting some of the information in the record. I emailed that to as the folks I thought were most appropriate. If they need to go to other parties, I apologize. It went to the mayor as well as the councilman and other city officials that seemed appropriate. I have more copies here if anyone does not have a copy of that information, and if we'd like to discuss that further, if you have any questions for me about it. Otherwise, I'm available to talk about any and all of the matters that you raised earlier, to whatever extent you would like to go into all those matters with me answering your questions. From the perspective of your existing investment in the facility, we certainly appreciate the fact that back in 2012 you bought into the facility. It was your cheapest option at the time, and the facility has performed very well. The facility has been very reliable and efficient since that point in time, in large part due to your partnership and leadership in the organization. Your deputy director was the chair of our management group for the first 3 years of operation. We certainly appreciated you folks stepping up. The plant is only getting better, performing better, and expenses are coming down over time, which is part of the information that we provided. And revenues are going up, which is part of the benefit of ownership. You actually get the revenues that come from the energy market to offset increases in energy market prices. That's the trade-off. Our expected life, I know there were some discussions about expected life of the plant. Our expected life is only increasing at this point. Newer and newer technologies come out, particularly for the combustion turbines, extending the life and increasing the performance and lowering the cost, actually. We're going to have significant cost reductions over the next 20 years as a result of a new contract that was just signed with the approval of the owners, that the owners have been negotiating with Siemens over the last 6 months. And so this is all information that was available. Councilman Roberson, to your question, some of the information that I'm providing, it was either assumptions made during the analysis or simply wasn't ready and available. Contracts did just get signed, and we certainly didn't want to be overly aggressive providing information that we couldn't bank on and make sure you could bank on, but now the information is known and knowable. I believe that as a result of the information that we provided, with the assumptions that can always be debated or vetted further, we do believe that Dogwood Energy, an additional share of Dogwood Energy, would be the cheapest option for the city. Several other of our co-owners have already seen the same thing. Two of the other municipal entities that originally bought in at the same time as you folks did have increased their share of ownership, as well as a new municipal entity. So we've gone from being 50%, a plant being 50% co-owned back in 2012 to now being 2/3 co-owned. So municipal utility majority owned. We simply own a 1/3 share of the facility now. And it's our business model to take plants, turn them around, make them very efficient and effective, and then sell them to the people who are going to get the most value out of them. That's why we're selling the facility. And for municipal utilities, your interest rates on your debt are so tax advantaged that in general it pays for you folks to own rather than rent, which is why we propose ownership rather than long-term power purchase agreements. And we can discuss all that further, but I think I'll leave it at that. There's probably quite a bit more to say, but I would much rather stop and answer your questions, particularly about the documents that I provided, walk through them if you like, or however you would like to proceed.
Okay, well, we're going to proceed with the public hearing. When we close the public hearing, we'll have discussion. So if you want to stick around, that would, if there's questions, we'll ask them then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else present who would like to speak on this matter? Please come forward.
Madam Mayor, before I begin what I have in my hand to read, I am not calling out or specifically picking on any council member. So I don't want to be slammed, hammered that I'm calling someone out. I'm speaking facts. Just a couple weeks ago, Councilman Roberson put on record it's not true about building power plants in our country. Natural gas plants bring in $25 billion to the Atchafalaya Basin. October 9th of 2018, in fact, there are 29 new being built. I say new, 475 megawatt or greater. Ohio with 10, Pennsylvania with 16, West Virginia with 3, representing more than 26 million megawatts. An additional electric capacity, more than 17,000 jobs have been added throughout the country. Nuclear reactors produced 807 billion, not million, billion of kilowatts in 2018. There are 2 reactors under construction right now. The United States of America is the 8th country that uses the most electricity per capita. I say build a new plant. Will help the people in Independence by a 25% cut in their bills. Not what's on record by the council, but 25% off of the numbers that the councilmen have been throwing at each other for weeks and weeks in and weeks out. These would be great jobs that come to the city of Independence. We need this to make our city better, not only for jobs, but also for revenue that the new plant would bring in that we could use and sell to other cities. And the reason I say that we can use and sell is specifically because I own property that has windmills on them in Iowa. Not one bit of power that these windmills generate goes to the city that they're stored in or building or up in these megawatts. They're sold. Chicago, St. Louis, Nebraska City. Where are we at? Why are we on the bottom of the list trying to spend and spend and buy and buy and buy, and all it's going to do is make this city more broke? That's why I say build a new plant, make it better, bring the jobs to here, and then have an income. I did visit one of our councilmen's business places during a petition drive, and I can understand why a councilman is kind of for these meters and stuff like that. My question would be, what kind of kickback is he already getting with the solar panels on top of his building? And I think the councilman knows who I'm speaking of.
Is there any other, is there anybody else wishing to speak on this topic in the public hearing? Public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Before the clerk reads that, during the recess, it just kind of dawned on me that we've got this Oneta agreement conceivably in place, but we've also got the directive to go back and look at the best and final with Dogwood, and to issue the RFP for the generating turbines. By my count, there's no fewer than 6 different combination of options that could be out there. It would be my recommendation then that we just take a little additional time to try to vet through these and provide that side-by-side, apples-to-apples comparison that I think the council needs to make their generational decision associated with this. So it'd be my recommendation that we would continue this probably 2 weeks to at least allow ourselves the opportunity to present that information at the study session, hopefully next week, and allow ourselves potentially that chance to still file with the Southwest Power Pool by the end of the month.
Okay, so your recommendation is postpone until the May 20th council meeting?
That would be correct.
Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
is this where I talk? or-
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know whether I was superseding the
No, no,
motion.
no.
or- okay.
No, I'm asking for a motion.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I appreciate the city manager's recommendation to postpone the second reading. And it makes sense to try and find out all the answers to the questions. And on taking action on this matter tonight, while we wait for more information on options, we've been doing this for a long time. We've been asking this for a long time. As such, I move to approve Ordinance 19026, though I will not be voting for it. I believe Dogwood provides us a more favorable and long-term solution to our power supply needs. So let's get on with where we're going. Let's go to the place. And my place is Dogwood.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Councilman?
I'd like to move to amend 19026 to a 10-year contract.
We, has a motion been made?
You just made, Councilmember Van Camp, you just made a motion to approve
Yes.
19026?
So it needs a second? Let me ask a question, Madam City Clerk. Since what the councilman is moving is what the ordinance says, I'm not clear why we need the motion to approve if we're going to read the ordinance.
Okay, let's make,
I-
we're going to make the motion then to put it out for 2 weeks?
My recommendation, I just want to make sure we're lined up. My recommendation was to kick it out 2 additional weeks to give us that chance to present at the study session next week. If I understood you
So-
correctly, go ahead.
So, right, no, okay, and, which is fine. I mean, you know, this is the process.
Sure.
But if that is approved,
Yeah.
then my approval of the original would be,
The
wouldn't,
ordinance doesn't change, it's just that.
well,
what
we
the
wouldn't
city
vote on it
manager-
tonight to have it go away, is what I'm
Right,
saying.
we're making a motion to postpone the vote 2 weeks, is what
Okay.
the city manager is
So
recommending.
that's ahead of my motion?
No, that motion has not been made.
Oh.
I was asking for the motion, if the council so desires, to postpone this for 2 weeks.
Okay.
I believe my motion's the only one on the floor if I have a second.
No.
No?
It's motion to approve is on the floor. I would read the second time if you got a second.
I'm sorry, explain that.
We have the motion on the floor to approve. If I had a second, I would read for the second time, so we get 2 readings in the motion to approve it. We get the vote. But if there's a motion to amend, we would do the motion to amend after I do the second reading. Does that make sense?
No.
We're just-
I'm sorry.
It's just being opposite than we normally do.
Okay.
Because the motion to approve has come first.
Okay, so Councilman, you're asking for a motion to approve tonight's ordinance tonight.
In order for me to vote no on it.
I second.
Okay. Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
we do still need to get the second reading in place.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, so,
I'll read the second reading, any motions after can count.
okay.
Bill Bill number 19-026, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute on behalf of the City of Independence the capacity-only power purchase agreement with Onetta Power LLC, providing for the purchase of 45 megawatts of capacity only from the Onetta generating facility, payable only from the revenues of the power and light operations and not from any tax revenues or general revenues. Second and final reading.
I'd like to amend that. Is this appropriate now?
Yes, if you want to
Okay.
make a motion.
So I would like to amend this motion then, instead of 20 years, to a 10-year capacity only.
Is there a second? Okay, the motion fails due to lack of a second. Now, is there a motion to postpone for 2 weeks to allow for these questions that have been raised this evening to be answered before we vote on this?
Madam Mayor, I will make that motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to postpone 19026 to May 20th council meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
No.
Perkins,
Yes.
Doherty,
No.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
No.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Motion fails. Okay. Is there any further discussion on 19026?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
between my reading and trying to listen here, I did have a couple comments.
Yes.
Or questions to go back to Mr. Jensen, if that is appropriate.
Okay. Yes.
May I
that's fine.
proceed?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
A lot of information given, all the way around the board. So I appreciate your patience and coming this evening. I did receive your information through the email, so I'm going to get my place straight here. So part of the information that was given on number 2, long-term power purchase agreements have risk. Is there any thought of possibility of putting dogwood up for purchase on the market? Is that something that's, I say possibility, is there a short-term possibility for that?
Not in the same way it's being discussed here. So we're not offering the city a long-term power purchase agreement. In our opinion, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, given that your costs of ownership are so low. We, by giving you an ownership offer, are putting an ownership offer on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going directly to the source and you get the access to it, so you don't have the risks of the counterparty in the event that you're in PPA and it switches to somebody else who might not be as creditworthy. We protect our co-owners from any adverse situation of one of our sales by guaranteeing in our sale documents, and you have this guarantee from us that we will not sell our share to anyone who's less creditworthy than we are, so you get the benefit of the bargain you made initially, knowing who your partners are. To me, that's an important aspect of any power purchase agreement, knowing that your counterparty's creditworthy, that they will remain creditworthy, and to the extent they're not, you've got security in the event that that party changes, or you have an approval right to changing that party. But going directly to ownership, you don't have to worry about that with our agreements.
So this may be a question for our counselor and maybe yourself. Then if we do move forward and we buy an additional partnership with you, say in an event of a sale, whatever our agreement is with you 10 years from now, so what role do we play as a partner now in any of those negotiations, making sure their contract looks good, we're protected? Is there anything there that we get to look, overview, or or have a hand in with that?
For a new buyer? I'm sorry, I didn't
Yes,
quite.
correct. If you were to sell completely or anything to that extent, is there any way for us to have that kind of look into?
I
Or
believe what
role?
you're asking is part of the agreement documents. So we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the contracts here.
Yes, we are.
But as the original seller, you don't have approval rights for who we sell it to,
Okay.
as long as they are creditworthy and more creditworthy than us.
Okay.
However, for any future buyer, to the extent they want to sell, so one of your co-owners is the Kansas Power Pool. They own 60 megawatts. To the extent they ever want to sell, once Dogwood, when we're completely out of it, or any other co-owner wants to sell anytime, you do have rights of first refusal on that transaction.
Okay.
So there is substantial security with the new group of owners as to who that group will be going forward in the future and how that will work.
Okay. That's one. I do have another. Can you explain a little bit about the capacity and efficiency? I'm under one now, sorry. Under performance and capacity upgrade, the capacity and efficiency improvements were only partially included in the IPL's evaluations. Can you expand on that some?
Sure, absolutely. So we're the plant, that is, and we as co-owners in the plant, we're reaching a point where we're getting to the end of the major inspection or major maintenance cycle on the combustion turbines. So Dogwood Power Management, as the owner's agent, as our collective agent, renegotiated a new agreement going forward. The next major inspection is expected to be in 2021, 2022. We're opening up the turbines completely. When that happens, you get the opportunity to put in new technology, better blades, better combustors, everything new that Siemens has learned from their newer versions of turbines. You take those improvements and you put them back into your existing unit. That results in better performance. The units will get more efficient, and that you'll be able to get more power out of the units as a result of just doing that work. There are additional upgrade options that the management group we as owners could pay for. We haven't made that decision yet, so we haven't included that here. But this is in the base program. Just by doing the major maintenance, we're going to get those benefits of a more efficient unit and a slightly larger unit. Now, and I believe we included all that information in our proposal. Only some of that was included in the analysis, was our understanding when we reviewed it with IPL staff. And I do have to say, I really appreciate IPL staff and Brenda's, as the director, their openness and commitment to transparency in this process, because when we saw the results didn't match what we would have expected and we asked questions, we were given access and had a discussion about the assumptions. So that's what led us be able to put this information in front of you today.
Well, thank you for being here to help out with this discussion. I'll be looking forward to seeing what the best and final could possibly be that we can do these.
Thank you.
Apples to apples comparison.
Is there any further discussion?
Madam Mayor, for point of clarification, what is the role that we're getting ready to take?
We are voting on 19026.
For approval?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
No.
Perkins,
No.
Doherty,
No.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
No.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Ordinance fails. Mr. City Manager, before we move on, I just want to be clear, this ordinance as written, we do still have directives out there to bring back additional information. So I just want to be clear, this ordinance cannot come back to the council in this form after it failed to get 4 votes. But that does not mean that ONETA cannot come back in some other form. Is that correct?
ONETA could submit a revised proposal, or a council member could ask to have a motion to reconsider. But beyond that, no, as written, this wouldn't be back in its present form.
Very good. I just want to be clear on that. Okay, this takes us to our second reading with Madam City Clerk.
Yep. Bill number 19-025, an ordinance authorizing execution of a certain transfer of property and improvements, an assignment of easements agreement with the 39th Street Transportation Development District, and authorizing and directing the city manager to do all things necessary to consummate the agreement between the parties. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Doherty? Robertson?
Yes.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Okay, this takes us to our first readings, and we do have 3 emergency readings this evening. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 19-027, an ordinance amending Chapter 8, Article 6, Purchases and Sales, Section 2, Section 3, Section 4, and Section 7. Bill number 19-028, an ordinance submitting to the registered qualified voters of the City of Independence to prohibit installation of AMI for any customer of Independence Power and Light, and shall be prohibited from entering into a contract with any entity for the purposes of installing AMI. Furthermore, non-ordinance action item number 2, passed by City Council on 4/1/2019, shall be voided, and any contracts entered as a result of the non-ordinance action item number 2 shall be canceled, and providing for the submission of the proposal to the qualified voters of the city for their approval at the election called and to be held in the city on August 6, 2019, and proposing the form of the ballots to be employed at said election, and directing the city clerk to do all things called for by law in connection with holding said election.
Do I comment here, or can I?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor and members of the council, I filed this ordinance calling for a vote on the matter of AMI, also known as smart meters. Over the past few years, my colleagues on the council have studied and debated the topic in detail. I think that, in my observation, the council has a hard time convincing itself that smart meter technology is the right business practice for our utility customers. In times when the city council cannot decide on a matter, it's a duty and it is our obligation to place these issues before the voters. That is why I filed this ordinance and why I ask for your support. Let the people vote.
Mayor, I want to speak to it too.
Okay.
I know we're not voting on it tonight, correct? This is the first reading, but I think it's important for me to say a few of these things tonight. So first of all, I want to say the City Council is a representative form of government, and by charter is to run IPL and the Water Department as a business. I think by us putting on the ballot, which it looks like we will do anyway, we are abdicating that responsibility that has been given to us by the voters in the past. This is a complicated issue with 350,000 in studies, stacks of information. All the questions that anybody could have are answered out there if you look or if you have listened to some of the presentations. The vote has already been taken. The last vote was the 4th vote that we have taken on AMI over the past 2.5 years. The City Council still will have to have an ordinance with 2 readings. Just because we pass that vote doesn't mean we have AMI. We still have to fund it, and it would take an ordinance with 2 readings before the City Council and for public input before we actually passed AMI. So that was not the final vote on AMI. 4th, and this is the most important to this particular language, the ballot wording on this 19028 would allow for the planned upgrade of AMI already in place by Spire. Everybody in the City of Independence already has AMI on their gas meters, and they're planning to upgrade it in 2020 to the similar AMI that we have. So this particular language in this would put Spire and the gas company at odds with the City of Independence. It potentially could mean that it would mean an increase in your gas rates, and it could mean that we would have a lawsuit against the City of Independence. So I think we have to be very careful. The way this is worded, we are at risk, and we are putting the city at risk, and we are putting each of the ratepayers at risk for higher rates, because they would have recourse to come back against us. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Madam City Clerk?
The next three ordinances will be read as emergencies. Bill number 19-502, an ordinance appropriating $1,325,000 in the city's Events Center Fund from the Events Center Community Improvement District for capital outlay expenditures at the Silverstein Ice Center Arena and declaring an emergency. Bill number 19-502, an ordinance appropriating $1,325,000 in the city's Event Center Fund from the Event Center Community Improvement District for capital outlay expenditures at the Silverstein Center's Arena and declaring an emergency. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 19-503, an ordinance approving a final plat of Voorheesville PUD 16th plat, lots D5, D5-L, D5-R at 12800, 1212802, East 47th Terrace Court South, and D6, D6-L, D6-R at 12804, 12806 at East 47th Terrace Court South in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri, and declaring an emergency. Bill number 19-503, an ordinance approving final plat of Voorheesville PUD 16th plat, lots D5, D5-L, D5-R at 12800, 1212802, East 47th Terrace Court South, and D6, D6-L, D6-R at 12804, 12806, East 47th Terrace Court South at Independence, Jackson County, Missouri, and declaring an emergency. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Why is this an emergency?
Final plats are normally read as emergencies. That's been our practice for many years.
All right. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
did we read 502 twice? I thought it went over.
Yes.
Okay.
We did.
All right.
We can read it again.
No, I had thought that I heard it once, but go right ahead.
Thank you.
19-504, an ordinance increasing appropriations in the amount of $98,497.19 in the water fund, increasing appropriations in the amount of $121,228.27 in the general fund, estimating revenue and increasing appropriations in the amount of $5,962.60 in the park sales tax fund, and transferring appropriation in the amount of $185,000 from the park improvements capital project fund to park sales tax fund. Appropriation ordinances may receive two readings and be voted at the same meeting. Bill number 19-504, an ordinance increasing appropriations in the amount of $98,497.19 in the water fund, increasing appropriations in the amount of $121,228.27 in the general fund, estimating revenue and increasing appropriations in the amount of $5,962.60 in the park sales tax fund, and transferring appropriation in the amount of $185,000 from the park improvements capital project fund to park sales tax fund. The appropriation ordinances may receive two readings and be voted on at the same meeting. Second final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Doherty?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Ware?
Yes. Ordinance passes. This takes us to council member comments. I'll start on my right with Councilman Huff.
I have nothing this evening.
Councilman Perkins?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilman Doherty?
Same here, nothing tonight.
Councilman Van Camp?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilman Robertson?
No, thanks.
Great. I get the whole 20 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a reminder that May the 8th is a city and county holiday for the celebration of President Truman's birthday, so we will be closed on Wednesday, May the 8th. There's a lot going on around town this month and many celebrations, so I hope that you all have a chance to get out and enjoy those events, and we will be back next week. Mr. City Manager, anything else this evening?
Yes, very quickly, two items. Number one, I want to make the council and the public aware we are producing a new report that will be published online in the next day or so. We're calling it the Manager's Monthly Report. We provide the council and the public with a number of different reports, but they're scattered and very much incohesive. So this monthly report will provide information on building permits, on construction activity, on monthly financials, on various going-on program offerings across the city in one short, truncated report. So we look forward to getting that online and for the public. Number two, we've had some very direct and intense conversations with Paymentus, who is the vendor that administers the credit card convenience fee. We have been very clear about our intentions to get that reduced, and I expect to have some options presented to me by the end of this week, and assuming that those are met with my satisfaction, we'll bring recommendations forward to the council, but we're going to continue to be very direct and aggressive until we get something that we're satisfied with. Thank you.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Yes, she